Hi, my name is Daniel Machado from Upper Deck, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and you are listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out, just like our guest did a mere few hours ago. With me, as always, is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards. Last time he played Pack Wars, he got 2 rooms into the truck before he realised he didn't need to, actually pack to be involved. It's Norrin Rad.
Wait, do you really not have to pack?
No, dear. How many times have you moved?
God dang. I've been on Pack Wars now 84 times, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he's still thinking, where are all my cards? Well,
it's just one street corner after another. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, my goodness me. I'm just going to get straight into it. We are joined by a guest. We have an Upper Deck. It's an Upper Deck episode, Norrin.
Yay!
We should have a jingle.
Ooh, we should have a jingle.
We should have a Upper Deck jingle. I'm actually not
figure this out.
Well, no. Well, let's ask our guest. We are talking to on this episode our very special guest, Daniel Machado, is with us. I don't actually know your job title, Daniel. What's your job? What's your role?
My technical title Upper Deck is Content Manager.
Content Manager. Marvelous. Okay. So, Daniel, not meaning to put you on the spot straight away, but is there kind of like an anthem, like a song that always goes on at the office parties that you would think would be the Upper Deck like jingle? I mean, it could be the Macarena, it could be La Bamba by the Gypsy Kings. I don't know why I went Latin American on both of those things.
You went hardcore Latin America.
I did. I don't know. Is there one?
You know what? If I don't think we have an official song title, but if I could pick one, it'd probably be Africa by Toto. It's a little inside joke at the office.
That's a good one. That's a good
Toto.
One.
Brilliant. Okay. We are going to edit a little bit of Toto.
Just a little bit.
Just into
Taster,
this as the official.
In fact, we might even go.
I might even go back to. Oh, listen! I played the entirety of Kaylee by Marillion at the end of our 100th episode, and no one sued us yet.
No one said anything. I was shocked.
No one said anything. No
people contacted us. Nothing. No. And we're still on the radar, so it's so strange. You know what I mean? Because we're such a big deal.
One of these days there'll be a cease and desist. Anyway, I'm going to go back to all previous Upper Deck episodes now and edit in that little jingle. And in fact, I might even put the whole thing on Jason Machera's episode because he is the boss after all. Anyway, Daniel, welcome, Daniel. So, content manager at Upper Deck. So, what do you do? What do you look after at Upper Deck?
I look after EPAC. That's pretty much my responsibility here at Upper Deck. So, just making sure that from a day-to-day perspective, the site's up and running, whether that's content-wise with products, news posts, emails, the site itself, making sure it's functioning properly on a day-to-day basis. I know you guys use it pretty often, so you can see that there's issues with running a website, but just making sure that everything day-to-day with EPAC goes smoothly. It's basically my responsibility.
Wow, that's a lot of work, man.
You must be knackered. You must be absolutely knackered.
Exhausting. That's a lot of stuff going on, man.
I'm guessing you have a team working with you.
We do, yeah.
It's just him. Did you not hear that?
Yeah, it's just me locked up in this room working on the EPAC. No, we have a great team that we work with. It's continually growing as well as EPAC grows, so that's been super helpful. But yeah, we have a great team that works on the site in various aspects to get everything up and running and going, so you guys can enjoy it.
Good.
That's
okay,
awesome,
so let's walk it back slightly, Daniel. Give us your origin story. How did you get to Upper Deck? What's your background? What does it take to become a content manager?
My origin story. Yeah. That's I think we'll go back, as a kid growing up, I was a big collector. I think as a sports fan, I started collecting baseball cards at a really young age, and that kind of expanded into other sports and other interests as well. I collected Pokemon cards when I was young. That was getting really big for the first time when I was a kid. So, a lot of great memories opening up Pokemon cards and baseball cards as well. And that just kind of continued to develop and expand as I got older. Collected other sports, collected other, entertainment cards. Started with Yu-Gi-Oh for a bit. I played a little bit of Magic the Gathering. Actually got the Versus cards, but I don't think I fully learned how to play the whole game. So that was a bit of a disappointment, but got into that as well. And I was always interested in Marvel as well. I didn't collect comics quite as heavily as some of the other Upper Deck employees that you've talked to in the past, where they've got pretty incredible long box collections. Started a long time ago, so not quite as much for me, but it was always something that interested me. When the movies started coming out, that was pretty awesome. I thought that was great, having read some of the comics and looked into some of that content. Eventually seeing that on the big screen was awesome. So kind of continued collecting off and on throughout my childhood and getting closer to being an adult. And then once I went to college, I was at Santa Clara University in California. I had graduated. I finished a couple months early, so I had some time to try and figure out what I wanted to do with my life after that. Was a marketing major, so wanted to get into some sort of business role. And having collected Upper Deck cards for my entire life, I figured, why not give it a shot, apply for some open internships they had over the summer. So I actually applied and got hired on as a talent relations intern. And that was a lot different than what I'm doing now, but it was a super fun time. I loved doing that. I started just over 5 years ago. And so in addition to a bunch of different roles and responsibilities, I was helping to contact a bunch of retired NHL players for this Toronto Maple Leaf set we did. So it was a lot of texting and calling and emailing, players from, pretty recently retired to like they finished playing 30 to 40 years ago. So
wow.
A lot of funny stories with those guys and their significant others answering the phone and kind of walking them through why we want to pay them to sign autographs for us and make trading cards for them. So that was, quite the experience. And so as, I worked in that role for just about 2 months, and some openings were becoming available Upper Deck, and one was as a product coordinator for the product team. So I think a few of the guys that have been on have talked about that role, building all the checklists. That really interests me. So I applied for that, and that was not only for, some of the sports products, but it covered a lot of different genres and products that we were working on. And it also included EPAC. That was still in kind of its early stages at the time. Right. So I interviewed with Grant. He, he's been on the podcast, so it was a pretty amazing podcast, and he's got a wealth of knowledge and experience in collecting and at Upper Deck too. So that was a really cool experience to get to work with him. And so I started in September 2016 as a product development coordinator. And, from there, I think I worked on about just every single property we had at one point. Wow. Guys would step in or out at certain other coordinators. So I would, help out with the Marvel content, some of the hockey stuff, anything from CFL to USA Football. Worked on Goodwin a year or two. So got a chance to see a lot of different products on the Upper Deck calendar and see it in EPAC too. That was definitely growing at the same time. So I worked as a coordinator for a couple of years, and then as EPAC expanded, those opportunities also expanded. So I ended up joining the EPAC team, or basically helping to create the EPAC team, in a more full capacity, probably about 3 years ago, and since then have become content manager now and oversee more of the day-to-day, EPAC happenings. So wow. It's been a fun journey for sure. It's crazy to see what's happened in 5 years.
That's amazing for all that to happen in 5 years, my man. You've been busy.
It's been a busy 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Very knowledgeable. Very cool to see you going through the ranks like that and being able to like be a part of every set too,
absolutely.
man. Oh wow, fantastic.
What amazes me, Daniel, if you don't mind me saying, is you barely look like you're sort of 17. You're a very young man. So it's like he started there when he was 12. It's like, wow, they're hiring them young. But that's quite a journey, because EPAC, if I'm right, EPAC launched in summer 2016. Am I right?
Yes. So I think it was just before I was actually starting with the company. EPAC was first launching, and the first couple of products were available. So started shortly thereafter.
That's right, because I have a feeling, if I remember I should go back and listen to it, but I remember Jason telling us it was around the time of Masterpieces 2016 coming out, which came out on EPAC almost at the same time, I think, as San Diego Comic Con.
It was October or September. Daniel,
I think it was earlier.
Maybe earlier.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm seem to remember. Yeah, I need to go back and listen to it. I'm seem to remember Jason telling us that it was around the time that of Comic-Con. So anyway, I don't know.
It might be. I mean, that's a pretty special set. I mean, being a part of that, were you part of that, Daniel? The Marvel Masterpieces 2016?
Not 2016. No, that was all up on the site and released. I think it sold out well in advance of me joining. So didn't get to quite experience all that.
That was crazy. That was nuts for us, man. That was pretty fast.
I bet it was. So it's clear to me that the EPAC team is kind of a sub team within Upper Deck. Yeah. So you work alongside the other departments. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So how? So what's the journey, if you like, just on a typical set? Could be Marvel, could be a non-Marvel set. For something that starts off as physical and then goes to EPAC. Just kind of give us the broad brushstrokes of how that comes through the pipeline, if you see what I mean, from product development to physical release and then to EPAC. How does that work for you guys?
That's a good question. I think we're, as an EPAC team, involved pretty early on. You've probably talked to some of the product and brand teams to see how that, how products go through the pipeline, so I won't get too much into that. But obviously the product managers come up with an idea and push it through the system. Early in that stage, we're involved working with them to make sure that the EPAC content, if it's going to be an EPAC product, looks good from our perspective. And then, we get some input on the achievements as well, just to make sure that looks compelling and something to kind of interest our collectors on the site as well. So we're loosely involved throughout that process. And, for the most part, up until the product's produced, we're not heavily involved. And then once it prints and it's ready to ship is kind of when we get more involved in coordinating, shipments from the vendors or from our team out to ComC so they can, store those cards and begin processing those cards. So it's very involved. I try to simplify it as much as possible, but that's that's one of the reasons it takes a little bit longer for us to get everything, up and running from when, you might see it in hobby and then you have a short delay and then it's on EPAC.
Sure. I always equate that window to the window you used to get between a cinema release and a home video release. It's kind of it's not too dissimilar actually, and it's kind of the example, because we get so many people coming into the group who are new to it completely and don't understand what it is, and that's always the analogy I use. Excuse me, sorry. No, when you talk, I'm dying.
I'm talking. No, I love that, actually. He hasn't told me that, but I think that's great, actually, because that is that 3-4 month window. But I mean, there's so much you guys have to do just to get to EPAC to function well. I mean, from the categorizing, all the checklists, the pro checklist, the pack art. So that's something I'm interested in terms of you guys bringing this to EPAC. How fun is it to come up with these digital packs for some of these sets that don't exist? That must be a trip.
Yeah, we've got, a great design team that puts that all together, and brand team pretty much manages that. So when they're putting together the foil pack art that gets printed, they're doing the same for EPAC as well. So they'll look pretty similar, like at least related, and then, have some slight variation. So you can tell there's a difference between the hobby and retail and EPAC. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. That was one of the key features of EPAC we wanted to keep it as close to in-person physical collecting as possible. Show those packs, make them look like those foil wrappers, so you're kind of reproducing that pack opening experience that you'd get, at home opening a hobby box of cards or hobby pack.
Very cool. Very cool to see that actually being actualized and everything. Very fun. So when you guys make certain decisions about combining cards to make a physical card and to make a variation and stuff, what are some of the things that you guys go through for particular sets when you're trying to make those decisions?
It's a good question. It really, varies set to set based on the content of the set, how often the base set cards deliver per pack, per box. We take a consideration to that. There's some pretty standard combining rates that we use across the board. And you'll see some sets too, they're just so premium that, we feel like we have to deliver the base set cards to the collectors too. So, you'll see something like Masterpieces, obviously with the serial numbered base set, that's going to be entirely physical. But, for the most part, I think the ability to have those combining or stacking parallels just adds so much to EPAC. Even you may not get the physical base cards in each pack, but now you've got basically a piece of a base set card that you can create. Create these pretty awesome combining parallels that you can't get in hobby. Especially when you get them in hand. Some of the foils and designs are just incredible. There's beautiful cards.
You guys are definitely responsible for Ian and I losing our minds over Fleer Ultra Spider-Man foils and rainbow foils because they look great, man. Like I think I still think back to us rushing and trying to get these cards and trying to do all these combining for these EPAC achievements. That's just so much fun to be able to do that. Such a great thing to add in there. Yeah,
that was a set in particular with a lot of combining, a lot of different parallels, multi-level combining. So. Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, that's quite the set.
Yeah. I'll tell you the interesting thing about Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, one thing that I thought, and you may or may not be able to confirm or deny this, but it must be at a certain point, because of the fact that you do lose the physical cards when you combine to get a silver and then you combine those silvers to get a rainbow. It must be almost self-replicating to a point. I mean, I know you will run out of the hits, assuming they've all been printed and they're all stashed there, but I imagine that gives a product that much more longevity because those physical cards, if everyone who'd got 100 physical cards had actually not done the rainbow and had them shipped back to them, you'd have probably run out of set a lot sooner than you did.
Or paper.
Well, yeah. Because they all physically exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the misconceptions with that product is like as cards got combined, we just kept making more inventory. That product, we made a fixed amount of cases, and once that sold out, it was sold out. And the combining of cards didn't really affect the quantity of those cards. So it wouldn't be like Ian combined his Spider-Man cards and then another pack was created for Norrin. But that I think that was one of the misconceptions with that product and how things work, that we were just recycling inventory. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had a feeling they'd all been printed, but I meant just in terms of obviously they go back into the system. So,
it's a great recycling idea.
Yeah. Because that 100 cards, they wouldn't have been physically taken out of the ComC warehouse and destroyed. In theory, the system would have put them back into the pack end of it. Otherwise you'll be like with a big skip putting all these base cards into the skip out the back, and one of us hobos going in there and rummaging through it and trying to steal.
Still them. A good idea to go over there and do that, Ian. I'm just saying.
One day. I imagine they've got cameras all around that building. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
Daniel's not going to confirm or deny this. He can't tell
My
us.
My lips are sealed.
Arrangements. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, hopefully not too sealed because we're on a podcast. So what's the what I'm curious about is obviously you've just been through. Okay, so from what I understand from Jason when it started, the site was built by is it a company called Dynamics?
Yes.
And they're kind of from the financial kind of sector background?
Yeah, I think they started working with kind of credit card payment processing or something along those lines.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, and obviously that site was up. The first version of it was up for a while, but under your fine kind of leadership, you've probably just been through the craziest upgrade of any website that has ever happened. Tell us about that experience, about moving from version 1 to version 2 of ePack.
Yeah, that was quite the jump. It was definitely a substantial kind of overdrive. I think we started planning that at least a year and a half before it actually made it out to the public, just starting to work on the designs and really starting with the feedback from collectors, what they wanted to see improved. What about the old ePack site, or I guess now the old ePack site, but the current site, do you like? What don't you like? How could we improve that? And what can we do to make this the best collecting experience for our collectors? So we started from there and kind of developed to what you see today on ePack. So we worked with the design team to create all the different pages, back and forth feedback there, working internally and with some external people providing feedback just to make sure everything looked good as we were going through that phase. Then once we got the designs finalized, we had to implement that and test through it. So, pretty extensive testing to make sure the experience that we were giving before not only matches what we've got on the new site, but is improved as well, since there was still some new features, a new layout that we didn't have on the first site that all of a sudden appeared on ePack. So we want to make sure that was as good as it could be. So it was a pretty lengthy, extensive process to get to where we are today. And it's never finished. I think that's one thing we always talk about. It's like we've always got a development queue of trying to come up with new ideas and new features and new functionality that's going to make ePack better for everyone. So it's never really like, okay, we're done working on ePack and we can relax. It's like, what's the next feature we're going to come up with, and how can we make this better? So we kind of continued to improve and make updates to the site. But yeah, it was a pretty extensive process. I think we tested through everything and then launched the site towards the end of last year. Obviously, pretty crazy the first few months, just getting everything back up and running. I think with anything that big of a change, there's going to be some discrepancies and or some issues that need to get worked through as we move it from a test site to the public site. So maybe not completely seamless, but at the end of the day, I think you look at the two sites together and it's night and day really what those look like. And again, like I think we've done a pretty good job of taking any issues we saw at the site early on, getting those addressed pretty quickly, and then working from there just to continue to improve the experience for everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that's actually interesting, because obviously with any good website, it's the way you've got to look at it is that it's always in beta. You're always trying to improve. It's consistent testing and learning, and A/B testing and all that sort of thing. So I'd love to see some of those plans for stuff you've got coming up, but I can't. What would you say you're most proud of in terms of how the site was to how it is now? What was you most pleased to see realized and released, and what maybe was in the mix that didn't quite make the cut that you wanted to add?
It's a good question. So I think just the overall look and feel of the site now, it might have taken our collectors a bit of time to get adjusted to the new layout, a new interface. I think we knew that going in. It was going to be a bit of a pain point, just getting adjusted to something not completely new, but buttons are in different places, links are provided in different ways. So I just think the overall look and the feel was great. Like, it just seems like a much cleaner website, easier to navigate if you've never been on the site before. So just going from where we started to actually getting it out there, that was a huge win, and something we're pretty proud of.
Yeah, the header banner that you guys installed in there with the drop down really is a lot cleaner. View my collection, that's all really nice and accessible, very clean. Very, very clean.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a big one. Just, making it easier to get to the trading marketplace, easier to view your collection. You can click up there and you're on any of those pages in a single click, which was never a possibility on the older site.
Yeah, Ian and I have done a couple of EPAC tutorials for people just because I think the hardest thing for people to understand, which hopefully when they come into this episode, they're getting a better sense of this, is that you are opening most of the times, depending on the product, of course, physical cards digitally, and I think the biggest issue that comes there is people don't realize how much that is going to be so integral to the future of getting physical products, right? A lot of things eventually will be interacting with them initially digitally and then having them shipped to you. I think that's going to happen in many different ways. And I think it's just so exciting to see EPAC bringing that function to a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What I always tell people about EPAC is that everything you open, even the digital stuff, is a stepping stone to a physical card. Unlike Topps Collect, where it's all digital and it could get switched off overnight and your collection is gone, baby.
Yeah, that always breaks my heart for those guys, for people who do those digital collections. And that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. Yeah. I mean, it's twitchy enough knowing that it's physical, but still seeing it on EPAC and never having touched most of my collection on there, which is
all the collectors in the group are like,
it's kind of weird.
It's like, it's okay, it's there, it's there, it's really there, it's okay. We soothing exercises to help us through it. So.
We this because we talked about it briefly before we started recording. We didn't tell people that we were talking to you, but I popped a very leading post on the group this morning and said, if you have one question for the guys, if you have one question about Upper Deck, actually is how I phrased it, what would it be? And we got a load of them, and I know you had a quick scan, and you kind of know the lay of the land with it, and there's some interesting ones in there. I guess so. If you don't mind, we're just gonna dip into them a little bit, if that's okay, because I think they're really good questions, and they're all stuff people would like to know. The top one. And there might be a little bit of explanation as to why this can or can't be possible. Will there be an app?
Yeah, I figured that would be the first question, and looking at all the feedback and likes and comments. It's been considered, especially early on in EPAC, just reviewing, what we've got on the site, what we're trying to accomplish, and what we're trying to provide for our collectors. It makes a lot more sense for us to provide, a pretty robust mobile web program or website rather than an app. It just wouldn't give you the same experience as you get now with all of the trading and opening and purchasing. There's just so much that's tied into it. It just wouldn't fit well right now with an app.
Yeah. I mean, my understanding of how apps work is that you wouldn't have you wouldn't have that constant live connection to the behind the scenes complexity of the website, because obviously it's a very live moving, it's constantly moving. You've got cards moving from A to B and the system's tracking it. And I'm guessing, if I'm understanding it correctly, if you put it in an app, you risk that chain of movement of the cards moving around the system being broken. And kind of, that connectivity would be one of the challenges. I don't know.
Perhaps, yeah. I think
spitballing here. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is, making it as quick and fast as possible, so that there's no delays, no lag. There's, like you said, there's just so many moving pieces and different connections between the site and ComC and and trades that it would be difficult to really encompass all that in a single app.
Yeah. Okay. So is that? I'm just going to ask this because I know someone will say, was that a no or is that a
no? I don't want to completely rule it out with the no.
But it's a not now.
Not now. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Lovely stuff. All right. There we go. Asked and answered. We're going to smash all these if we go at this speed. One of the big things, and I appreciate you may not be able to tell us this because ultimately it may not be something that you Upper Deck wants to talk about. But what there's often speculation about the percentage of a physical product that may be held back for e-pack release. And I'm guessing that may change from product to product, but is there kind of a benchmark or a yardstick for that? Is it fixed? Can you even tell us what it might be? I don't know.
I don't think there's any particular like benchmark. This percentage has to be e-pack and this has to be physical. I think it really depends on the product or the property in general. So that's not really something we'd ever disclose, like this percent went to e-pack and this went to hobby, but it does vary from product to product, as you've probably noticed with different products on the site. Sure.
Would it be fair, because someone asked this and I thought it was an interesting question, obviously given the market change and the fact that e-pack, I'm guessing from what you've told us, has seen a successful increase in the proportion of product that you're moving through it, would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think we've had a great growth in the collector base and amount of products that we've got on e-pack for Marvel and entertainment. So it's safe to say that that's definitely growing on the site.
Good. So has the proportion that's held for e-pack increased at all? Generally,
wow,
would you say?
That's smooth, Ian.
Because I'm thinking, obviously with lockdown, with stores being closed, it would make sense for you to, with everyone and his mum embracing e-commerce suddenly because they had to, it would make sense to increase that proportion, I guess, from a business perspective, purely, regardless of whether it's Marvel or hockey or anything else.
Wasting all of our money.
You know what? That might be one of the areas that I'm not at liberty to touch upon. But
Fair enough. I have to ask.
Unfortunately, yeah.
That's all right. No problem at all. Good. We need a code word. For when you can't talk about something.
Well, I did have a part B to one of your questions.
Go.
So, and hopefully this is not something you can't talk about. Fine, obviously. But for e-pack achievements, right? Especially ones that are not hard numbered, right? Like, let's say the Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, like for a Rainbow exclusive, or any one of the cards that are achievable through combination or whatever the case may be, that are not hard number and then particularly run out. Those cards, because I'm assuming that you print so many before you make the achievement, because on assumptions of mathematically what can be done, right? For the ones that are never claimed and then the product sells out on e-pack, those extra achievement cards, I'm assuming, are destroyed, so they're not entered into hobbies collections because of them selling out already, and there's no way to achieve them, because there are some cards that are printed that you can only get through an e-pack system, but once the product sells out and no one has them able to get in their collections, what happens to those extra achievement cards that could never be claimed again once it sells out on e-pack?
Yeah, those will just be stored at ComC for eternity. No, I don't. I don't think there's
the Lost Ark.
Yeah, I don't think there's really. Again, that might be one of the ones we'll have to take a look at. But I don't think there's any particular, messaging on where these are created or what's done with those cards. Generally, if we put out an achievement and it's not limited, there's enough cards to satisfy everyone completing said achievement.
Got it. Very cool.
Okay, because interesting. And actually, on a flip side to that, I do know that some products are still live on the site, and yet for whatever reason, there's been no announced limit to the number of the achievements, and they're not numbered achievements, but at a certain point they just become unavailable for redemption. After a certain point, do you know is it something contractual or legal in the set creation, or is it something else that determines that they stop being available?
For the more recent products, there shouldn't be any point at which they shut off. Basically, if we put an achievement out, a stacking parallel achievement, that it's going to be existent and available for all of time. So if if you're still working on Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, you want to combine your base set cards, that's still going to be available.
Yeah.
I don't know, for 3 or 4 years down the road since that's been released, but that'll always be an opportunity unless, like I said, if there's limit that's stated on the achievements page. It said this is, limited out of 100, and now there's 6 copies left, and once those are gone, it's
good that the numbering's there on those actually, which is great. And obviously on the MCU, Black Diamond, people knew there were only 5 of something, and that's hard numbered. No, I was thinking of things like Marvel Annual 2016 and 2017. Some of the patch achievements have now, you can't get them. And I was getting close on 2017, and so suddenly it's like, I can't actually get it now. And I have to kind of resort to the secondary market, and that's quite frustrating for me because it's still available to buy. That was kind of the example I was going for there. So I wonder what happens to them. Maybe you ran out of achievements. Don't know. Who knows? Who knows what happened to those Marvel Annual patches? They're somewhere. Someone's got them. I'll find them. I'll track them down. Okay. What's the this wasn't asked on the questions actually, but I'm going to ask this one. And you might not be in control of this. It might be more of a marketing thing, but I've always had a frustration with what's the reasoning behind such a short notice and lead time of announcement that a product's being released on ePack?
It's just, I think, mostly an uncertainty of exactly when it's going to release. We don't want to, put out a date and then, find out after COMC scanning and processing all the cards, us internally testing it, that we're not going to be able to hit the date that we've mentioned. That just fluctuates so often that, we can't really confirm the exact release date for a product until pretty close to when it's actually going to release.
Yeah. I'm thinking not in terms of a long-term announcement of date. I'm thinking of maybe a little bit more than 48 hours, because you would think you would know within maybe a week that you're going to be pushing it out at a certain point, because you need to scale up and get people ready in different parts of the business. So Black Diamond, no one got notice. It just appeared.
Yeah, it was a surprise release to say the least. Yeah,
and now we're all poor. And it's your fault, young man.
Yeah, you can blame me for that one.
No, it's brilliant. People loved it. What's it like? I mean, we asked Mike Phillips this, and his answer was quite interesting. It must be bonkers for you guys because obviously you must be monitoring the numbers when you put something on sale, and something that sells in 4 days. It must be like crazy to watch that happening.
It was absolutely insane. Yeah, I think I had texts with Ben, who's my boss and works on the ePack and e-commerce side as well, texting Grant, kind of going back and forth looking at what had sold so far, and it was absolutely insane. I knew that would be a popular product, having tested through it and seen some of the cards that were going to be included, and obviously seeing the demand that the hobby side had for that product. So we knew it was going to be a monster, and it exceeded expectations. I think it was a lot of fun to track, but yeah, it was just crazy to see that go so quickly. And I just think there was a lot of value, a lot of amazing cards in that product that altogether made it just incredible for the collectors, and obviously it resulted in the fastest sellout that I can think of on ePack.
Yeah, I think it was faster than Masterpieces 2020, and that was fast.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what it was.
I think it was maybe a day or less.
Than 18?
Yeah, I worked out. No, 2020. I mean, because I think I did some clown maths. Matt Rogers used to call it on Black Diamond, and I worked it out. It was 4 days and a few hours, I think, or something crazy like that. But I think Masterpieces 2020 was almost 5 days. So I think it wasn't much different, but
such a beast.
But yeah, it's bonkers. And you think about the amount of product because I do refresh it, and I see the amount of product that's appearing in the first 15, 20, 30 minutes, and it's like, who are these people that spend that amount of money? Well,
we know some of them for sure.
I know.
They're definitely around having a good time. It's always fun though. It's kind of hilarious to think about Upper Deck and us. All of us are both tracking of like, it's happening, because always the night before, all of us collectors are like texting each other like, dude, it's gonna happen tonight. It's happening tonight. Everything's gone. And you just seen the number go down, 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 down.
Oh, especially when it drops below 99.
Oh, so much fun.
It's a prime example.
That was a good time.
Spider-Man had been on there forever.
Forever.
It was having a resurgence. And you know what? I'm going to say it, Norrin. I think we're responsible for relighting that fire because we did those episodes and it did start lifting.
It was us.
All of a sudden, everyone was talking about it. So
just keep that in mind. Write that down for them. Just let them know it was Norrin and Ian who was responsible for rolling that out.
I'm taking notes right now. I'll let you know.
Appreciate
it. But when that was, it was starting to go, and people were speculating, and then PMGs were starting to go crazy, and 2020 was being 2020 in terms of the hobby, which must be bonkers for you guys to see in the overall stats. It must be absolutely crazy to see the effect of what's happened in the last year.
And how Marvel's like breaking through the scene fast.
Yeah, 100%. That was one that was a little surprising just because, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man was a 2017 product, and all of a sudden, it's flying off the shelves on EPAC, and that's all people are talking about. And I think the craziest thing was to watch those 100 stack parallels, which weren't talked about quite as much early on. Everybody was chasing some of the bigger cards, and all of a sudden those gained steam. And I think the Venom card in particular drew the most attention, and everybody was kind of freaking out about that card. So it was pretty wild to see, but I think that was a great product, and it was one of the first ones I got to work with at Upper Deck. So it was exciting to see all the interest in it.
It is such a good product. It's such a good quality product.
It was really fun. I'm excited for future Fleer Ultra stuff if it happens. I think it'd be a real treat, man. I'm excited to see have that whole experience again. It's just fun art, fun cassette, fun setup.
Fleer Ultra. I love Fleer Ultra. Anyway.
Me too.
But yeah, that Black Hat web foil, I mean, I finally got it. I don't have it in hand yet. It's sitting in your warehouse up in Washington.
You still don't have that shipped to you?
No, I haven't had anything shipped to me because I've been paying off credit card.
You're on Black Diamond.
And
You're rocking it.
But yeah, I'm rather than spend it on shipping, I'm spending it on something else. Someone, before we move on from the announcement question, I just wanted to ask, someone had a really good point. And I've made crib notes, but you know what? I'm going to have to go back and read what they actually said because it was a really, really good idea. Someone asked if at announcement time, so if it stays at 48 hours, because it's often about 48 hours before the product, unless it's like hockey or game dated moments or something where it's a much quicker drop. Someone actually asked, and I'm trying to scroll down to it through all the app questions here. Could you tell people at that time that you announce it a little bit more about the kind of redemptions and the achievements, so they've got a little bit more time to plan how they're going to attack it? Because often that only happens once the product is live on the site, and then all of a sudden there's going to be a very fast learning curve.
Right. No, that's good feedback. That's one of the questions I saw in there. So, as I think we were talking about earlier, anytime we've got feedback from collectors about that, we try to incorporate it and put it in place where we can. The other related question that I saw in there was publishing the checklist beforehand, because there are some differences between sometimes there are some differences between the hobby checklist and the EPAC checklist. So another item for consideration I thought was a good point from somebody in the group.
That was from James Edel, who's a very nice man. I've traded with him. So thank you, James. One of the interesting things about that, he said, can the product checklist be made live to coincide with product announcements so your wish list can be built prior to the on-sale date? But I don't think you can actually add something to your wish list unless it physically appears in the trading marketplace. I don't think you can do that unless I'm wrong.
There is a way. I can give you a little pro tip and share it with everyone. So if you go to your collection, obviously it's only going to show you the items that you own. There is a filter for items you own, and you can click the X to clear that, and it'll show you basically all the items within that filter. So let's say Black Diamond's a great example. I'm looking at that product. I want to add some items to my checklist, and some may be locked or haven't been pulled yet, so they don't show up in the marketplace. I can go into my collection, filter for Black Diamond, and then clear the only items I own filter, and then you'll be able to see everything within that product for whatever you filtered for. And then you can add it to your wish list from there. Yeah, exactly.
Right. There we go. Oh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. We're going to have regular Daniel's tips on EPAC feed. Feel it in my water. I love it. This is exciting. I'm going to go through the wish list. I think these are going to be quick fire ones now. Hopefully, maybe you'll go into it on some of them. One person raised the prospect of serial numbers being added to the actual the physical sort of text rather than it just being in the photo, because the scans sometimes don't pick them up too well, especially with the foiling.
I saw that one. That's a good point. I think that really depends on how ComC processes everything, but definitely one we've looked at and something that's in the think tank considerations.
Good. Okay.
Think tank consideration.
The next one's going to be a lot more difficult, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Sketch characters being added. Now, this is you wouldn't believe the number of times we have posts in groups saying, who is this character? Which is fine, which is one thing, and I get that might be subjective to do with artistic interpretation of a particular character. But also for us who are character collectors, less so knowing because his character is currently on the bench.
What the heck? What is that? That was a personal attack.
I love it. Always gets a rise. But for Black Cat, I have to scroll through thousands of different sketches. But I love
poor Ian having to search for Black Cat.
Listen, just because you can't search for yours because he's out the back somewhere. When he's back, you'll feel this pain. You'll feel this pain. Trust me.
That's true. No, it's painful, man. I mean, yeah, 100%. I think it'd be awesome to search for characters. Yeah. I know you have to search by artist now. And like sketch categories and all that kind of good stuff. But I mean, I can imagine some poor person who doesn't really understand Marvel characters and is like, okay, is this Iceman or Silver Surfer? I can't figure this crap out, these kids. You know what I mean? So I could definitely understand where the difficulty happens there. But yeah, I think that would be a really cool feature to be able to search by character for sure. Yeah,
that is one that we've heard plenty of times since sketch cards have been on EPAC, and I think it's kind of a blessing and a curse to have the sketches on EPAC because it makes it so much easier, one, to see all of them in one place.
Yeah.
That you just never really had that ability before if people were only opening in hobby. And so you've got all this visibility now, and like you're saying, it's how can we make it more filterable and easier to find, for the artists or for the artist collectors, I want to find my Freddy in sketches, and then for the Black Cat collectors, how do I get my Black Cat sketches? So it's been talked about a lot. We've tried to come up with the best way to include that, and we've had good suggestions. It's so complex with the number of characters and the art and determining which character is on the cards. It can be a very time extensive process to go through and pick all those, and even so sometimes it may not perfectly fit, like where you've got a sketch of Spider-Man, but then you've got a sketch with Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk, the Avengers.
Yeah, the list.
It's a lot of different tabs.
Yeah. But Ballard sketch that's got like 30 characters.
Yeah.
All those faces.
Yeah, some of those 2017 Marvel Annual achievement sketches he did were pretty incredible like that.
Beautiful.
But I will say where we can, and I think you've seen it more now with 1920 Marvel Annual had the battle booklets, and then Black Diamond had the exquisite checklist that was split out by both artists and characters, so there was a little more visibility. So we're definitely trying to incorporate that as much as we can, and in those instances it's a lot easier because we're providing the sketch cards with the character name on it. So we'd hope that whatever character is listed on the front of the cards, the character that ends up getting sketched, so we can track it that way. But
you would hope,
But yeah, it's something that's been considered. That's one we hear a lot, and it's definitely not something we're ignoring or just putting in the back. It's something that's talked about pretty often when we're talking about what's the next thing we're going to bring in, or what's one of the next things we're going to add to the site. That's usually considered.
Yeah. Good. No, it's interesting the workarounds you have found with the printed stock, like Marvel 80 have had it, and Premiere had it on a number of sets.
Premiere, yeah, that's right. So,
yeah, that's interesting. one person has asked if, and this hopefully could be a fairly quick win, but I've been offloading some sets in trades recently, and a select all button, because you can do transfer all, you can do unlock all, but you can't do select all, which would save so much clicking.
I'm getting carpal tunnel over here, man. Like I don't mean to complain, but yeah.
I will say I wouldn't be surprised if there was something like that added to the site, sometime in the near future.
Yes, we have a win, people. We have a win.
A win.
And I think might be in the same person actually. The option to resend an expired trade without needing to recreate it. Or a recreate button without needing to do it, which I actually quite like, although I can see that if you did it, you maybe would have a limit of only doing it a certain number of times, because otherwise it could become
kind of
stupidly annoying. Yeah.
yeah.
But that'd be pretty cool, like a Lazarus button.
A Lazarus button.
You can have that one.
I might have to steal that. I like that. Yeah, that is another one that we've talked about quite a bit. Obviously there's a good and bad side of being able to send more trades, and one, you want to be able to send as many out as you can, and the other side is you don't want to receive a bunch of spam trades. It's like going through the forums, no blanks. That's a struggle. So that one definitely talked about quite a bit, and something, again, I wouldn't be too surprised if that made it onto the site at some point.
Look at this. We're 2 for 2, Norrin. This is good. Well, 2 for 8 or whatever it is. But I'll take it. Thank you very much. There's one of the things I really like this idea. Obviously, at the moment, if you lock a card, it disappears from the marketplace. And if it was James again, suggested, is it possible that the card could still be visible, but with no connection whatsoever to who owns it and with no ability to get it? So you could kind of see the full kind of shop window, if you like.
That's nice.
And I don't know if that's even possible. And obviously, I guess it would make sense for things like sketches, but I'm not sure it would make sense for thousands of base cards.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty hefty privacy feature. Well, there was something that I want to ask, and I feel terrible that all of these are kind of like, here's how things can be done for you, because I'm sure that's exhausting at this point. Which I feel bad about. But I think it's because so many people are really excited about ePack, and so many people do use it. Like, you have no idea how much your work and everybody in your team has made our lives easier, because especially for Marvel card collectors, like we all know, it's impossible to find them out in the wild, and we are all so far from each other because it's still relatively small, that ePack is kind of given us a different second life, as you could say. But one thing I was going to ask was, a lot of these cards have very interesting effects and foils and textures to them. And it's not for every card, but like if you had like a video showcase of every type of insert, not every card, just one of every insert, just like a visual feature where you can see the shine, you know what I mean? Because I think so many people like, not to keep talking about Fleer Ultra, it's just the one that's in my head, the patterned foil for those PMGs, that ePack exclusive, those are so much nicer than people know. The silver ones, you know what I mean? Like, just being able to see some of those effects, because the scans are just impossible to see some of those things. You know what I mean? They get dark. Like even the rainbow foils that were ePack exclusive. You know what I mean? Some of those were just really hard to understand.
Black almost, some of them don't.
Yeah, some of them.
The way that the light of a scan.
And they have to be scanned, and it's it's like a mountain of cards to scan. Totally understandable. But I definitely think it's always fun for us, especially cards we can't get in hand until much later, to be able just to see the effects of them. I think a lot of people would chase them, to be honest, harder, because that's kind of what happened with Spider-Man. We were doing the rainbow stuff and people were like, whoa, wait a minute. Those actually look really good. And we were like, wait a second, what is this? And, they kind of started that resurgence. So I do think having some of that video content would be interesting for collectors. Bogs down a site, but I'm sure it'd be interesting to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, and I think anything we can do to make the cards, one, look better, and give collectors a better perspective or idea of what those cards are going to look like in hand. I think that's our main goal. We've worked with ComC a lot. Obviously, it's difficult to capture some of the brilliance of these cards, especially with the crazy technologies or the bright shining lights to really capture all that in a single scan. We've shifted to photos for certain cards just to the scans don't do them justice, so we'll do more of a an actual photograph of the card to bring out some of that light. But yeah, I do think where we can show that off, whether it's maybe it's a separate marketing video with the videos of the cards and everything. I think that's a great idea. And again, for us, we love to hear the feedback from collectors, from you guys too. Like, it's great. I think it's rewarding for us because it shows people care and they want to improve it, and they're really enjoying and using the site, which is exactly what we want to see. So anytime you guys have feedback, anyone that's listening has feedback, feel free to send it through. Send us an email, send us a contact us message to say, hey, I have this idea for the site. We go through those pretty regularly, add those to our kind of development queue to make sure that we're continually improving the site and bringing in new features. I think that's the huge hallmark of one, keeping the site fresh, but at the end of the day, my job and my hope is to provide the best collecting experience available. So I love hearing the feedback and the suggestions, and even if it's something we've heard a bunch of times, it's good to hear it again, just to hit home how many people really want to see a certain feature added. So we do our best to include what we can. Obviously, I wish we could incorporate everything in a few days, but it takes some time for us to get through it and develop and test it and make sure it all works properly. So we're doing what we can to get that out there to you guys and make it the best site we can.
Well, it's appreciated.
Very much appreciated.
Apologies if you have heard some of these before. It's just nice to, it's. I tell you what is good is that we, there was an awful lot of content out there for kind of sports and hockey. There's, Throw a Rock and You'll Hit a Hobby podcast that's focused on hockey or sports. There aren't many on there for Marvel, so we know that guys from Upper Deck go and talk on those a lot. Chris Carlin's on there a lot, Mike Phillips I've seen out there a lot, which is why we like to in our own small way just kind of feed that back into the Marvel side of the hobby, because some collectors cross the streams and they delve into the sports stuff, but some of them don't. Some of them are very focused and very Marvel. That's it. Marvel. So they don't hear what you guys might be saying to the sports side of the hobby. So that's why we often re-ask questions a little bit. I really like this one, and I've thought about this myself actually. I have a feeling it will probably really be difficult to do, but at the moment we know that when you go from EPAC to ComC in terms of transferring cards, it's a one-way street. Is that ever likely to be possible to reverse course and move them the other way?
Yeah, it's like the multiverse, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's one that comes up a lot. I think in theory it's a great idea. It just provides or creates a lot of different complexities. So I think for now I can say it's a not now, but I wouldn't completely rule it out for the future.
Cool. Someone said actually they would pay for this service. So there you go. Now there's an idea, just off the top of my head, an EPAC Premium with extra features. That's a subscription model.
I just heard the cry of 1,000 collectors out there like, no!
Yeah, sorry folks. Yeah, they'll right now. They'll throw their phones out the window. I'm sure you've thought about that as well, because you're very, 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 very clever people. There is another really good question on here. Can I find it? Can I not? Obviously, some people have touched on, obviously, this may be outside of your control to an extent. Obviously, ComC have had a lot of challenges with the virus and the ability to have so many people in a space, and then I believe they restaffed and possibly relocated some stuff early this year. Kind of March, April seems to be a dark time for the rebellion for a lot of people.
A dark time for
in terms of orders. I think a lot of people are still waiting orders for that period. But so obviously, I know there's challenges with that, but a number of people have raised the prospect of it costs a lot to ship a lot of cards. The physical weight is just quite a bit. So you're never going to get around that because you're in the hands of the US Postal Service primarily, and then wherever it goes from there afterwards. But in terms of those people who are the cost before you get to the actual amount it takes to ship it, someone raised a very good point. If they're bulk shipping, like big sets, and there are some pretty big sets on there that people might physically want to export, is there a possible consideration of an economy by scale model for those bigger collectors, just to help out with that physical cost? Because it is a gate, it is a bit of a closed door for me with the amount of stuff I've got on there.
Yeah, that's a good question. Something brought up pretty frequently, the COMC shipments and shipment costs. Obviously that's handled by them, so I can't I guess touch upon options like that. But I can say, looking at the last year and a half for us and for COMC in particular, it's been pretty difficult. As you mentioned, one, with all the COVID restrictions and complications created by that, it was difficult for them to get enough employees in the office or in the warehouse to really fulfill all the orders. And that was from the beginning. And as everybody's noticed since COVID, the resurgence in trading cards just created a ton of demand and a ton of orders.
Storm.
So it was really a perfect storm. And it was difficult, and obviously you can understand how frustrating it is as a customer waiting on your order for that long. But what I can say is, COMC's worked with us, every step of the way, and we've, checked in with them pretty frequently just to see what we could do to make it a better experience. And especially recently, they've done a lot. One, to hire more staff, and a lot of that's been on the customer service side too, to try and work with customers, see where orders had been delayed or got behind in the queue. So they've one, done a lot better to get caught up to a normal kind of shipping and handling schedule, and then brought in a ton of help to answer questions and make sure that if somebody has an issue, that it's not being left unread or unseen. So it was difficult. Like you said, the perfect storm is exactly what happened with COMC. But I think if you look at it, we were the first on EPAC, like direct EPAC shipments were the first to get top loaders back when they had the shortage. So they definitely wanted to help our EPAC customer base first, and continue to improve it. So I think if there are any issues, if somebody's listening and it has a shipment that's delayed and they want more information on it, you can always contact us. We're happy to help either look into the order for you or work with COMC to make sure that gets out as soon as possible. So I'll say that much for COMC and some of the difficulties that we faced in the last year. But in terms of the bulk shipping option, that's something that's been talked about as well, something that we'll work with COMC on. I think the one factor of the shipment portion is most of that, or that 25-cent fee, is basically the handling fee for somebody to go pull your individual card and add it to the shipment. I think when you really conceptualize how many cards you've got in a warehouse and how many different cards you can pull together for an EPAC shipment, it takes a lot of effort to put that shipment together, so that it's not just the postage cost was this much, but my shipment charge is much more. It's pretty complex to what all goes in there. So, but yeah, I don't want to make it sound like we haven't heard the requests about improving shipments and costs. That's something that we're actively working on to improve for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, I'm going to give a special shout out to one of your colleagues, James Hughes, who is in the groups, and when we tag him, he always says, "Right, email me," and he's he's kind of stepped up on that point. So hats off to James and his colleagues on that one. I know it's been enormously appreciated by the community. And actually, I forgot to mention this when we recorded the other day, Noreen, because she's just left. Can I just give a little shout out while Daniel has a libation there to Angelica Gow, who was community coordinator at Upper Deck, who left mere 2 days ago as we record, who made a very big impact in a very short space of time in the community by just being visible, listening to feedback, doing focus groups, and she was and remains great and will be very sorely missed. So Angelica, can I just say on behalf of all of us in MMC and MCCW and at the podcast and all of our listeners, thank you for everything that you've done. And whoever is stepping into your shoes will probably be terrified as soon as they step into the group. So there you go, Daniel. There's a little side gig for you while you replace. No, he's going and shaking his head. But someone actually asked this, and I know the answer to this, but it could be a little kind of another of Daniel's tips. I'd only like to get marketing emails from Marvel instead of everything they offer. Like game dated moments emails go straight into the trash. Daniel, walk us through what someone needs to do to be able to select their preferences.
Wow, I feel bad for our game dated moments program now. No, we understand that not everybody wants to hear about different genres on ePack. I think it's great for some people to have all that offered, and it allows for a lot of great cross trading and opportunities you wouldn't normally have anywhere but ePack. Usually, like on the other apps, it's all limited to a single license or a single genre, so you don't get the opportunity to send out, a Marvel card trade for, something from hockey or something from Goodwin. Like, there's pretty endless opportunities there. But we do understand, some people only collect Marvel, only collect, Overwatch League or hockey. So if you go into the settings page, there's actually a list of sliders where you can turn on and off email notifications for all of the different genres. So it's all based on different lists. So if you turn one of those off, you won't receive any emails for that specific genre. So we actually just had a notice go out, at least when this is being recorded, I think yesterday, for golf being added as a genre. So you can now opt into golf as one of the genres if you're interested in those types of products. So as easy it is to opt in, you can also opt out if you're not interested in a particular genre.
Yeah. And the way you do that, because I've just done it now, you go onto the top right, you'll see your logo for you. You'll see a little menu with account, shipping and billing. If you go to account, third one down is settings, and it's at the top of that page. Send me special offers, and it has a number of on-off tick boxes for miscellaneous, Marvel, hockey, entertainment. Golf, I can see at the bottom. Look at that. Brilliant. Disney, esports, football, basketball. Latest songs being played in the Upper Deck canteen. You name it. Yeah, they're there. So Emily, who asked that you can go in there and actually select. It's a preference center ultimately for what you want to get. So yeah, you can choose what you do and don't want to hear about. I think I think we've broken the back of these. I've just got a couple more, and then I'm gonna kind of move away from the questions slightly. Someone's just asked a really good question that hadn't been asked when we started recording, which is the brilliance of live social media interaction. I'd really like to know if the ePack cards are put into penny sleeves by hand or as part of an automated packaging process. And that might be more of a ComC thing, but I get where they're coming from, because obviously there's a how would you say, a sensitivity to condition from some areas of the hobby. I don't even know if you know the answer to that question, but yeah.
I have a feeling I know the answer, but I don't want to give anyone the wrong idea. So that's a good question for ComC. I'd imagine however they handle the rest of their cards, they're doing the same thing for ePack. So yeah, it's an interesting question if they've got Ultron-like machines going through all the binders and pulling cards.
It would be really nice to know. I mean, we'd love to speak to them, but they
I've spent 5 years sleeving cards, and now I hate all of the human race. Like, I can see that happening. I can see that driving an AI program shootings. Crazy.
Yeah.
I can see the insanity.
They don't call it going postal anymore. They call it going Consi. That went dark. Sorry. Let me move on from that very quickly. You know what? I think most of those questions, you've been an absolute trooper, Daniel, because I don't think we expected to get that much feedback from there. But I think pretty much all of the stuff that people have asked, we've touched on, which is great. Do you? So let's kind of move back. You know, what's the future for EPAC for you? What can you talk about? You know, where would you like to see it go? It's like a job interview. Where would you see your career in 5 years' time? But you know, in the ideal world for you, if you could visualize EPAC version 3.0 right now, what would it be?
Yeah, it's giving me flashbacks of interviewing with Grant 5 years ago. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? No, I'm really excited with the path that EPAC's been on, in terms of, you know, especially from a product offering, what you see now as compared to 5 years ago. Just so many more products, so many different genres. So I think as EPAC continues to grow, and even Upper Deck as a whole continues to grow, we're going to be offering, you know, new licenses, new properties. So you'll just see a multitude of content on EPAC, which I'm really excited for. I think, you know, in the future, you'll see a lot of different types of products too, not just the core products where it's, you know, pack boxes and cases with Black Diamond and ages and, you know, those types of products. You're going to see more, you know, maybe if you're tracking like the Premier Prospects basketball set, some more of those kind of, you know, quick releases that, you know, don't quite fit the, you know, core hobby release type on EPAC. So, you know, just an expansion of those offerings, you know, the new licenses, and then a continued improvement of the site interface as a whole. You know, I don't think we're ever going to be satisfied with what's available on EPAC. We want to continue to make it better and, you know, improve features, add new features, you know, add new abilities on the site that weren't there before. So, you know, as time goes on, I think, you know, EPAC's only going to grow. It's going to be more user friendly. It's going to become, you know, a much more diverse offering for everybody. And I think my goal is to have something going out pretty much every day of the week, whether that's a release or, you know, new achievements, you know, weekly packs, you know, pack wars. We got the leaderboards that have been going on for annual, you know, expanding that as well. So just giving collectors more opportunities on the site in general.
Cool. I love it. I love it.
So exciting.
Daniel, I always ask Upper Deck employees a certain set of questions. So I'm just going to quickly fire them off at you now. Avengers or X-Men?
I'll point back to behind me, but yeah.
Brilliant.
No,
that's what's up.
Definitely an X-Men fan. I mean, nothing against the Avengers. I just grew up with the X-Men. I think starting with the cartoon was the first exposure to the X-Men, but finally got to rewatch that again about a year ago. That was pretty awesome. But yeah, big X-Men fan. That was probably the only comic series I subscribed to when I was younger was Uncanny X-Men. Cable's my favorite Marvel character by far. So
that's a good one.
Big X-Men guy.
That's cool.
I love it. Have you had a trading card made of you?
I haven't, other than the ones that we do at like the, you know, NHL draft or you know, events like that. You can get your own card created. I've got a few of those, but I haven't been featured in any of the legendary games like some of the other ones.
You're being robbed, man. You're complete with HR.
We spoke to your colleagues and they said, "Don't tell Daniel we do this. Don't tell him. Don't tell him."
No one said
that. Oh, I would have loved to have seen what you'd have been in that legendary set. Some of them are
it's still possible, man. It's still possible.
Yeah. One day we'll see. Yeah, you'll have to put in a good word with that team. See if they can get me in there.
You need to have a word. You need to have a word, right?
I'm sending a strongly written email.
Now I'm pretty sure Jason listens to us. So Jason, Listen to me. Daniel's worked hard for you.
Listen to me.
He's taken EPAC to places that, quite frankly, none of us thought it would go. And you probably look down the chain and you probably think it's his boss that gets the credit. No, it's Daniel. Come on. So hook him up, a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a hamper at Christmas, and get him on a legendary trading card. Go on, do it for us. Jay, you're a diamond. Thank you. Anyway, I call him Jay. He loves it. It drives him wild.
I have nothing to do with this.
What are we talking about again? You know what? I'm kind of spent. You know, all the questions I'd written down, all the collector questions. I mean, there were some that are much more kind of product focused that, you know, we could pitch at you, but you'll be like, well, you know, it's a product thing. But yeah, I mean, is there anything? You know, I always like to ask this of people. Is there anything you want to ask us? I mean, we've just been grilling you, but you know, do you want to ask us anything about
the second part of the interview, or we turn the tables, right? Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, Grant gave before we came on air, so you know, this is the Grant Sangren playbook of interviewing someone.
No, I think I appreciate all the questions. It's been really fun. Again, super excited to be on, and thank you guys for having me on.
More than welcome. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule. Can I add an additional wish list feature, actually? Because this is actually quite a good one. Can there be an option to get emails if someone sends you a direct message?
A direct message. That's an interesting option.
Because unless you're logged into the site, you don't see it.
I'll have to think about that one. That's at first glance, it seems like a pretty solid addition. I'll have to really think through unless you start getting spammed by.
Well, that's the thing. It'd be an on-off toggle button kind of thing, you know, one of those things. So, but it would be really useful because, you know, some of the more standard format forums like Blowout and other places like Scoundrel, you know, it's a fairly standard thing. And I appreciate that Upper Deck isn't that, EPAC isn't that, but it would be most handy. Personally speaking, but you know, other people might.
I like it.
I love it.
Listen, I might never get a chance to ask this again, so I'm with you. I
would have had more questions unless people on the group weren't so good at what they did. They asked all the right questions. I was like, all right, here we go.
To be honest with you, I have one more. Sorry, I put one more on the list. This is a personal one, so no one in the group. I love the checklists on EPAC, okay? But I often find that I might have already collected some of the product before EPAC goes live with it and it's on there. What I would love is the option for that checklist for me to be able to check that I have a card if it's not on EPAC. Does that make sense? So it can be my go-to source for my checklist.
Interesting, yeah.
Because I've got some Black Diamond on ComC. Because I bought it off there, but I haven't got it on EPAC. So I want to be able to tick in one place rather than notes on my iPhone where, you know, that I own the card. It keeps me coming back to the EPAC site.
Like something in your dashboard that says my collection, like not my collection, but my checklist. And then you have like personalized checklists. That's really cool. I love that. That's cool. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Ties in with obviously the physical aspect of it. You might have cards already, so I like that. I mean, the best workaround I can think of for you right now is the wish list and taking those off as you get them. But in terms of
which I do, but you know, it's a little
more difficult.
It's not a single collection view kind of thing, as opposed to a single customer view, which those in marketing will be very familiar with. Daniel, you've been absolutely great. Thank you. Hopefully you're not too kind of sweaty under the armpits from being grilled by these seasoned interrogators here. But seriously, thank you for making the time to speak to us. You know, we appreciate.
Thank you so much.
You're kind of behind the scenes, and you're probably not, you know, maybe accustomed to coming on things like this. So, you know, we appreciate you making the time.
No, my pleasure. It's been great, and you know, I appreciate all the questions and all the feedback. You know, we work off that, and that. It keeps me busy during the day. So, you know, and if you guys ever come up with anything, let me know. You got my email now, so you can send me a message as you come up with things.
Yeah. There you go.
I certainly will. I can see it on your business card now, Daniel Machado. I'm listening. Just underneath.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, you know, we told you at the top of the show, you know how we sign off our podcast. So without any further ado, would you take us out this week?
I will. Enjoy collecting, everybody, especially on e-Pack.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling at the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.